We're here in freaking Cancun because of this guy. It's all his fault. And this guy, if you don't know him, hello, where the hell have you been? This is Tony the Whatley, and Tony, the thing I love about Tony, like freaking, he's a freak of nature. He's a freak of nature. To him, the community is oxygen. And that's what he does brilliantly. Brilliantly. I roasted him last night, and he's going to deny it. He said he wasn't going to cry. He did. I saw the tear. Okay?
That's a new tattoo. The tattoo there.
One single tear. The waitress actually came out.
Drive by.
The waitress came out with a tiny bottle to pick it up with and save it for future reference.
Bird shit on my face.
I was wondering about that.
So one of the things you had really hit on yesterday, Tony, was the value of freedom. And I think people don't really understand that and understand the different areas of it. You know what I mean? I think that's a really important thing to understand is like, okay, it's not just freedom that I don't have to work. It's not just freedom to be able to do something. Like for example, you mentioned you had some decisions you had to make but you had the freedom since you had money to make those decisions. And I think that's important.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest takeaways I think in corporate that made me really climb the corporate ladder so fast is because the confidence I had from entrepreneurship. And most people don't realize that. Even if you go build a side business and it's cash flowing enough to cover your bills, you're going to have more confidence in not being able to be told what to do, like outside of your core values, right? If you work for anybody that's your supervisor, you got a boss, you're definitely going to have to do what the company requires of you. And you should be a high performer at doing whatever you're paid to do. But you have that level of comfort, I call it a parachute, that I can choose to deploy at any time. That if I don't like the way things are going or they're asking me to do something I know they wouldn't do themselves, that I can just leave, I can jump out like, keep bro. And the fact that when you have that confidence and
it lets you have your personal ethics too, because you mentioned there were two situations you observed and you said, I'm not okay with that, I quit.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do that had you not had that there.
But I guess going in depth on the confidence side of things is that your employer, your supervisors, they don't always know why you're confident, but they know you're confident.
Mm-hmm.
See, so you have that air about you that maybe they wish they had. And they don't understand where the source is, and you don't need to tell them about that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? But when they know that they can't manhandle you and push you and coerce you to do things, and they see that you have a little resilience and you stand up for yourself, it's just like anything in bullying. We had bullies as kids. There's corporate bullying exists every single day in every single office.
Yep.
And when they know that you don't take it and you actually stand up for other people and what you believe in and you're vocal about it, they don't push you anymore.
That's the one thing I'm amazed. I always still have to teach entrepreneurs about owning the room. And I just ask them. I say, every one of you has been in a room where when you walked into that room you felt smaller. Everyone's experienced that.
Yes.
Why? What changed? What was the variable that changed? And then the flip side was. And then there's times when you walk into a room and without the person saying a syllable, you're in the presence of someone with conviction, who has standards, who has integrity, and they have things that they believe in, without them saying a syllable.
Right.
How are those things possible? And once I bring those points up, then I'm like, that's what I personally call conviction. And people feel conviction. They know you're not just fucking putty. That can just be like, if we say this, he or she will do that. That makes us into a little freaking puppet.
Yeah.
Well, it's even observable online too, right? Like you see people that are like running from opportunity to opportunity to opportunity, and they'll run to the next Bitcoin thing, or they'll run to the next NFT thing, or they'll run to the next
4X,
whatever it may be.
CBD.
Yeah, whatever it may be, they'll run to that next thing. Yeah. Whereas the person that has the confidence, they have a confidence in their own ability to create and do. They have a confidence in their own know-how, right? So they're able to focus on this. If that looks cool, it may be kind of shiny, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and I know I can accomplish more doing what I'm doing. And I think that can also be observed online because you can see how somebody's content can change. and all of a sudden they're posting wild stuff,
You go
man.
from ClickFunnels to CBD,
Right.
to Forex, to NFTs. It's like, those aren't the same vertical, bro.
They're very different.
They're not even in the same industry, and you keep hopping around like, and you don't even talk about the other stuff anymore. It's like, you're not adding to your portfolio. Like Gary Vee adds to his portfolio.
Correct.
He does that.
Yeah.
But
He doesn't
never,
drop something.
That's right.
These guys drop something, okay? This worked today.
Mm-hmm.
This may work for a little bit. I'm going to ride the wave, and then I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
Whereas you say, okay, where can I add to, my digital real estate portfolio and continue to add to that? So,
That's
number
right.
one, I'm adding revenue streams, which is
That's right.
important.
That's right.
And number two, I'm hedging myself against what can happen in the economy. That's fine.
Yep.
But at the same time, if it's just you're jumping from the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, that's how you make money. And I couldn't even list off the number of people that, and you know it as well as I do, Tony and David, like the number of people I see online that just jump around. It's the same thing with confidence, right? It just that tells me that person does not have confidence in their own ability to create and do and to really handle things.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for opportunities.
Either you're the freaking anchor, and then you're just adding to things that amplify that, or you're hobby horsing, which to me is an immediate tell of the fact that I don't recognize myself as the source of my own power. These things give me the opportunity to the license to live, the opportunity to be meaningful and relevant. Bullshit. If you, that's why we respect those that they have the foundation, they've got that meaning, and you go, okay, they stand for something, and they're, like you said with Gary Vee, he's adding to these things, but they're coming from a place of his interest and curiosity and fascination as an entrepreneur.
That's right.
He's not just going, ooh, here's the latest thing. I'm going to now go boom. And it's like, that's shallow stuff. It's short-sighted. It's not meaningful. It's not long-term. It's not into the long game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you look at successful entrepreneurs we admire, right? You look at somebody like John C. Maxwell. He's been speaking forever. Now, how he speaks may change. Where he speaks may change. Or you look at somebody like Grant Cardone. Been in real estate and sales for a long time. How he sells it may change. Where he sells it may change. How he promotes it may change. But he knows he can do those things.
Yep.
And he's not like, all right, so, it's Bitcoin time, guys. Like, he may talk about it because it's relevant, but he's not jumping to that opportunity. And if you look at a lot of the entrepreneurs that have legs, they have stuck to what they do.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And I think it's the more solid that you get in with your business, the more focused you are on what your expertise is. The beauty of that is that you get to push away things that you don't want to do anymore. Even within that industry, like I gave an example of yesterday at the speech, is that like my wheel business, one of the wheel businesses I have, I used to sell wheels, tires, inexpensive wheels, expensive wheels. Like I tried to do everything that a discount tire or a tire rack would carry. And within a few months, I realized I don't like dealing with cheaper customers. I like people that understand value and quality and willing to pay for that.
Yep.
And then I sold expensive wheels and tires for probably about 5 years. And then I started looking at tires, something that most people know that they go together. And I was like, there's no profit margin in that. I'm actually losing money on some of these deals where I sell a $1,500 set of tires, 3% of that goes to the credit card, and I'm only earning $20 a tire on a $1,500. Like that's not going to actually lose money selling tires.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking at the tire business, like what does it make a successful tire business? And it's different. It's a bunch of 16-year-old boys out there with tire irons and machines working, getting paid $10 an hour, and you're just volume, turning them because they get volume discounts on the inventory and the child labor basically, and that's how they make their profit. It's like, well, I don't have that. I can't compete at the volume level, and I don't want those employees, so I'm just not going to sell tires anymore. And people are like, well, how do you sell wheels without selling the tires? Like, simple. You just choose not to. You focus on selling the wheels. And people would come to me and they say, hey, I want to buy some new wheels for my Ferrari or my Viper. And I say, happy to do that. And they always come back a couple of weeks later like, hey, I'm looking for tires. You sell tires too? I was like, no, I don't sell tires. But here's a referral to a link that sells tires because they'll take better care of you. They have inventory. They can mount and balance them. So having the luxury to carve out things within your niche is something that you don't get until you earn the expertise in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Well, it's interesting too because I look at even like with where our agency started in 2015. We started producing podcasts for people, and what we actually do as our full line service now, like getting people to book another podcast as a PR action. That was just something we did to promote the podcast we're building. And we found that our clients were so busy, they're like, that's cool, but I don't want to do all that stuff. I just want to focus on this.
Yeah.
So then we've been focusing on just continually making that better and better and better and better, and really, putting our foot down in the PR world. And I think when you can do that, number one, it allows you to be more of an expert because you're focusing on one thing. Experts are able to focus. And at the same time, it allows you to make the best service you can make because you're focused on that one thing and how you can do that one thing.
Totally. So, by the way, community is an amazing place. Some people use community as like a thing to evolve into. Tony's weird. Tony uses community as like the launch pad for all the shit he creates. And so that's why I love this guy. Very unique, very unusual, a freak of nature, awesome.
Thank you. I'm a freak.
But I think too, like something that's really important you talked about in community building, which I've never heard anybody else talk about this, is you said, I've done this and become one of the leaders just by answering questions. You talked about like no question was too dumb, no question was too basic. You just answered questions. And I think there's a lot of people that say, well, that's above me. I don't need to do that.
Right.
But at the same time, that's what leadership looks like, and that's what group building looks like.
I mean, literally, guys, think about that. If you're scrolling through your social media platform of choice and you see someone ask a genuine question and you know the answer or referral to that, and you scroll past it thinking they're too good for that, or someone else will answer that, or why not take the time to just type out the answer? I mean, you're right there. I mean, you're likely just sitting on the toilet, let's be real. Like, you got time to do it. Like, you're not going anywhere.
It's these kinds of insights. These kinds of insights you
just
need.
knock it out and be like, move on. Like, you've helped know you're a good deed for the day because someone got their answer and they're on their merry way and you hope they get results. So, don't be that person that scrolls past things that you know the answer to because you're there. You already see it. It literally takes you seconds.
We can wait that much longer to flush.
And unless you're doing like some kind of audio recording, you don't hear the toilet, and it's like, yeah, guys, like it's just you can build very successful branding, personal branding, or businesses just by answering questions. Being the person that people go, hey, that's the guy who has all the answers. Like I'm just going to go ask him from now on, and you become the source.
Yeah, that's it, and that to me is a key point. Because sometimes I have to break it down to like quantitative. In fact, actually, it was the Zoom call yesterday that you'll be catching.
Yeah.
One of the participants there, she was looking with regard to her hair oil product, and I said, let me ask you something. I mean, and we went over her sales cycle, and I said, what would it take for you to actually, you're already knowing why they're getting the product that they're getting. What's it going to take in terms of time, investment, and everything like that for you to actually say, dear so-and-so, and actually a handwritten note, not a freaking email, handwritten note, in with the product, dear so-and-so, da-da-da-da-da, and you actually have a couple of sentences that talk specifically to that conversation, those things that make it extremely personal, and say, and then you actually do that. You pop it in a little envelope. You include it with the product. What statement does that make? And what did it take? It took you about probably 2 minutes, and it cost you the materials. Probably cost you about 10 cents. And what's the impact and the ROI over the long term? Because nobody does that anymore. Everyone's so quick to interject efficiency at the sacrifice of humanity, and that's
I got a question for you, David. Being the branding expert, you got two good podcasters here. I know there's a lot of podcasters that follow us and listen to what we're asking and doing, and you give a lot of product advice, a lot of service branding advice, but I want to be real specific here. Like, what do you think that people are missing when they're doing the branding for their podcast? It's a good one.
I actually branded a podcast, a new branding podcast, about 3 months ago. And it was a very interesting exercise. What I see is the problem. First of all, I'm going to give you some specifics. I mean, one is many of the thumbnails kind of suck. Many of them suck. So I mean, that's like the thumbnail is like just like book covers. Like when people are designing book covers, they don't. I mean, I have to do it in reverse. I go, okay, what's my book going to look like this size? Not does it look amazing the size that it is? No. How does it look like this where people before they've gotten the product, that's what they're going to see and what's going to have the influence. So that's the first place it's going to live.
So what does it entail? Like, what are you looking for in that thumbnail?
Well, I mean, one is, and it's one of the things that drives me crazy with presentations. It's like, I mean, because I whenever I'm watching anybody do a presentation, one of the sins that are very common, they put too much text and they make it too small.
Can't read it.
You can't read it. And so, I mean, that's the same thing. So you go, okay, can I read this? It's got to be catchy. It's got to be like something. It's got to be a hook. You know, like 2 words, 3 words, something. And you know, ideally, hopefully, if the author has notoriety, obviously you're going to play off of that recognition. If you don't have that, what is the thing? And it's similar in this regard. Like, for people that know LinkedIn, there's this mode called creator mode. Well, when creator mode came out about 5 months ago, it gave all of us the opportunity to actually have newsletters that people could subscribe to, not just articles. Because articles on LinkedIn are dead. Unless you have like millions of followers, they would die. All you hear is crickets. But you can do a newsletter. And when I advise people of it, it's like, if you're going to do a newsletter, some people are like, hey, like let's say if Jeremy was doing a newsletter, you go, hey, the Jeremy Slate newsletter. No, it's like, no, that's not. It's like, what's the problem? You know, it's kind of like, we have a conversation. That doorway starts at their conversation, not at ours.
Yeah.
They don't recognize me yet. They don't know me yet. So what's the thing that's going to connect? I mean, even for me, I've got a following. I've got people who just love my shit, but I still play it off as part of my bit. It's like rising above the noise. Even if you don't know me, you're going to go, rising above the noise.
I want to rise above the noise.
Right, exactly. You know,
that's why I don't like people using their name in a show title.
Exactly.
Like, well, who are you?
Exactly.
And it goes with what you're saying.
That's right. I mean, occasionally, look, if you have Gary Vee, okay, the Gary Vee audience.
He's known already.
Right.
Famous.
Yeah. So you got so short, succinct. Will it work as a thumbnail? If you don't have the notoriety, which is 95% of us is like that, we fall into that. And even Seth Godin, who has a remarkable following, he'll even say, hey, okay, so I have this, but he recognizes that even with his following, so let's say there's 500,000 people that follow him out of 7.8 billion. He realizes that it doesn't really, he's not drunk on his own Kool-Aid. So that's the other thing. You don't want to be so drunk in your own Kool-Aid. It's like, I'm amazing.
But nobody
knows that yet.
Me.
This is not a
I can walk through the airport and nobody knows who I am.
That's a superpower. I can remain invisible. Invisible man.
I've met some people like that. They think they're so important, and they're like, but don't you know who I am? And no, I actually don't. That's why we're talking right now.
That's right. That's right.
You're telling me.
I have not read your book.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I don't want your autograph yet. But I mean, but those are a few, and then, but I mean, the one, and I'll give you an example. I mean, and this is because I look at something like, where's this stuff going to live? Where's it going to live? Where's it going to come alive? And so there's this guy. He's in real estate, but he loves stories of adversity and then overcoming the adversity. It's like, okay, cool, got it. Now, there's a lot of people in podcast land that have stuff like that, overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
All right. How the hell is it going to stand out? So we came up with, and it's really cool visually. It's basically, it was called Life on the Rocks, because when he's talking to an adult, he thought it was sometimes going to be younger people. But when he's talking to an adult, they'll be like, hey, we can do this over bourbon. So there's a little play on that play. That was one thing. Kind of cute. But then the other thing was graphically how I handled it with Life on the Rocks. With I said, here's how your shirts are going to be. You want to create this. You want to have your guests on, send them some merch as a thank you, build those kinds of connections. But you see, Life rocks, and then the on the is small. So it's like, so at a glance you see Life rocks, and then as you get closer, you go, oh, Life on the Rocks. So it changes the meaning. Yeah. But at least now we've given them a little bit of that person goes, oh, okay, gotcha.
Intrigue.
Yeah.
Curiosity.
Exactly. So those are some of the things. It's always a little bit of, I consider any brand is in the job and the role of instruction.
So what are your takes on putting the host's face on there, and how should that appear?
Put it this way, if Mike Tyson had a thing, all you'd have to do is freaking have his face with a tattoo on his face, and it's like there's your recognition.
You wouldn't even need words.
Yeah. I mean, I probably just go MT, and people go MT, and then you see the thing, and you go, done, right? So it's kind of like, what are the assets that you've got to work with?
Got it. Good stuff.
I think one of the things that's interesting about that too is like, and you'll get this when I explain this, is you look at like John Lee Dumas is one of the longest in space, right?
Yeah.
And he also did a lot of training as well, so a lot of people learned how to podcast from him.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many people that took his similar verbiage, something nation is what they call their audience, and their podcast is probably something on fire and things like that. So it's they lose the ability to differentiate because they're just literally taking the same thing, but it's been permeated throughout the podcast world. There's just so many people that are just doing the exact same thing. They have like a lightning round or a fire round, or they have something. Fire! Exactly. And like those shows I find are almost hard to listen to sometimes.
Yeah.
So you also have to think about like what you're creating for the end user as well. Like, is this something that's going to be desirable? And I think that can be hard when you're trying to like put the right branding around it, at least from the perspective of a creator.
But it's also like this. I mean, it's a form of content. I mean, it's a form of content. It's content / information / entertainment. It's got all these different qualities. If there was a show that was on TV and you always knew what the punchline was going to be, after 2 episodes, you're like, I'm done.
That's the honeymooners, man.
To the moon, Alice, to the moon. But I mean, you take the absurdity of Seinfeld. Like a ridiculous. Like I didn't actually watch I wasn't even a fan of the Seinfeld show when it was on, but I knew when it aired because every day the next day in my office, that's all the people talked about. They talked about the punchlines. Yeah, they were acting it out. I started to appreciate the show when the reruns were on. I'd be like, oh, that's actually very funny.
There's a lot of improv in that show.
Elaine. I mean, the chemistry between Elaine and Jerry and all of that was hysterical. But but it surprised you. So that element of surprise is key. Like, I mean, there's one podcast that I'm a big fan of. I mean, you guys know Aaron Clapp?
No.
So Aaron Clapp it's very interesting. He's a New York Times bestseller, but neither of you know him. It's very interesting. Are you right? He's got 2 New York Times bestsellers. Neither of you know him. He raises tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. He's known as the deal maker. He's the guy that people call. It's like, hey, we need VC money. He does his thing. He probably has a combination of a flat rate for certain things he does, and then a cut depending on what he raises. But he'll go in. The stakes are freaking high. The opportunity is 1, and it's do or die. There ain't like a second chance, And he has amazing stories, and he is also just he's like an Energizer bunny. He is a very unusual interview style. Because of someone in the master class, they said, you've got to interview David Brier, so he ended up having me on his podcast. Interesting guy. And I went in ready to rumble, knowing that he was going to interrupt me. I knew that he was going to challenge things, and I was like, bring it. I'm like, bring it.
You went full in.
I was like, freaking full Monty, man.
New York mode.
Bring it. And it was a great conversation.
Not bad.
And
okay, who was the bigger Energizer bunny of the 2?
I think it was kind of like everyone came out of their corners and it's like and then it's like and then everyone's just like weak in the knees. It's like, okay, all right, back to your corners. Okay, and so I think it was pretty even.
Yeah.
But he's always interested. He's very curious and genuinely wants to know. He has a unique, disruptive style of interviewing, and if you're very proper, you won't get. You probably will never be invited to a show anyway. It'll be. I'm sorry, you interrupted my tea and crumpets.
You start crying as a guest, and he turns around and puts a mark on the wall.
But he's an interesting guy. But he has the Art Craft Show, the Deal Maker, or something. I mean, it's like one of those. So he kind of pushes it, and I watch what he does. But it's interesting. I mean, out of that, he has these great little achievements and an impressive track record. But interesting in neither of you.
There you go. Hey, I need to know this guy. So if you're watching, I need to know. He's not going to make me cry.
Or he's not going to cry, but he's a great interview. He's a great interview. So no, that's anyway. That's the thing. I think you would find his interviews very, very interesting because he brings on people who are all about sales, and he's curious because they're successful, and he just embraces their different methodology. And he goes, okay, so. He goes, all right. He goes, all right. Let's role play this. So, all right. So I got blah 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 blah. And you're pitching me, and I'm going to tell you my objection. Handle me with what you just told me. Boom. And that's the cool thing because it's like in real time. It's like because either you can play in that playground, and if you can't play in that playground, you shouldn't be on that freaking show. You shouldn't freaking be in sales if you can't play in the playground.
Good point.
So.
Well, here's an interesting question, and I think this is something a lot of people with podcasts struggle with. Right?
Yeah.
Is especially people who've done it for a long time.
Yeah.
Is they may start it for one thing.
Yeah.
It develops, it changes, the world changes, whatever it may be, and they look at it and say, well, is this the same show? Do I continue the show? Does the viewpoint change and things like that? People really get stuck on the name.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the most difficult things to do. And I think Dave Asprey is actually a great example of this.
Mm-hmm.
He's changed his podcast name since he started in like 2013, like 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it's actually got a different name again now. It's like, it's not Bulletproof Radio anymore, he just changed it.
Really?
So I think a lot of people, whereas Dave will just change it because he sees up this is where it's going, and he doesn't have anything on that, a lot of people are stuck on the name and they can't change it.
Yeah.
How do you approach that when you're looking at like, the growth or something of a brand and where it goes?
I don't know that there's a hard and fast rule that would be universally applicable. But to your point, I mean, like Tim Ferriss, right? Like Tim Ferriss, like the 5-hour work week, blah 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 blah. See, I find that very fascinating because you've got to know how to frame what you're offering well.
Yeah.
The 5-hour work week was a brilliant bit of branding and marketing. The 4-hour work week. The 4-hour work week was a brilliant.
You took an hour off.
Yeah. Well,
20% savings.
Right, that's right. So the 4-hour work week. So the 4-hour work week with him. That book was just about outsourcing.
Yeah. It's about making things very efficient and outsourcing. And
which is not sexy.
A lot of automations.
Yeah, but it's not very sexy.
No, it's not.
But the 4-hour work week
is very sexy.
Brilliant bit of branding.
It has palm trees on the cover. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So to me, the biggest mistake that any brand can make, whether it's a podcast or it's a company of any sort, is basically hitching your wagon to the wrong star.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oftentimes it's like I'm very much into music, so I don't know if you guys, you know CD Baby?
Oh yeah, I've interviewed Derek Sivers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So CD Baby. So CDs. So all right. So we had vinyl, and then we had 8-track cassettes, and then that advanced to CDs. Ooh, digital CDs. That was like the future of music. CD Baby creates it. Well, CD Baby was a marketplace for independent artists to sell their stuff. But once we advance now to digital, not only digital streaming, not only digital distribution, but digital streaming, all of a sudden, that's now old school. Mm-hmm. He hitched it to a technology that was changing. Whereas you take something like Netflix as a brand, what did they, you look at Blockbuster, stupid, Netflix, brilliant. What did Blockbuster do wrong? Blockbuster
7-day video rentals.
Yeah, you know that all their growth and profit was on late fees. That means that if you have a life, that means if you have a life and you actually can't get it to us within the 24 to 48 hour window or whatever like that, I'm going to penalize you.
Yeah.
What the hell kind of business model is that? Oh, you have a life, I'm going to penalize you.
Oh yeah.
That's bullshit.
And the hot movies, what was it, like 2-day turnaround? You had to get it back in 2 days.
Exactly. And then it forced you and me to go, all right, we have to get out into our car, we have to get out there, we have to go there, see if they even have our stuff, because you can't call them in advance. Right. So that business model was faulty because it was based on having people come to our location and get the stuff. Netflix started as DVD by mail, but Netflix was devoted to the right thing, entertainment.
Yeah.
That's timeless. Entertainment. They didn't say in what form, so they didn't hitch their wagon onto the wrong star of come in and get your stuff and get your malt balls and get your Twizzlers and get your stale popcorn, get all that crap. But it was the wrong thing. So that to me is the thing. It's like connect your brand, your podcast to something that's more timeless. That it may change how it gets solved, how it gets overcome, or whatever like that. But if you connect it to something timeless, you will have a much better chance of being able to morph.
That's really interesting because that's one of the main reasons we named our company Command Your Brand, is because the big thing we help people do is command their brand right now through podcasting. But that's the medium at the moment. That could change 5 years, 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And we can still find other mediums where we can give people excellent coverage. But that was the main reason why we didn't want to hitch ourselves to, a podcast brand name of some sort.
Yep.
Because it was
Pod brand.
Exactly,
Yep.
because then you're stuck with that technology and you will die and live with that technology. Right now, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't be 10 years from now. I don't know that. I can't tell the future.
Well, I am glad you didn't end up branding yourself as the Podfather.
Hey, I interviewed Adam Curry, though, man.
That exists.
He's the guy.
Yeah. That is good. It's good insight because I think a lot of times people get it wrong. I mean, even my automotive business, DV8 Motoring, it's not DV8 wheels, it's not DV8 car. I realize I'm going to always own a business in automotive because it's my passion, but that name is broad enough where I can sell apparel, I can sell wheels, I can sell cars, I can be a dealership, I can do anything I want with that brand name. It's not going to limit my growth.
Okay.